everybody. It's the image of Stewart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow. And surprise!
I'm back.
Oh my gosh, the picture came to life.
I heard what you did, and it was not funny.
It was very funny.
It was not funny. Make my picture talk like that and make fun of me.
No, your picture actually did a very good job.
Well, maybe you'd like me to leave, and then you could just put the picture back.
Okay.
Would you like that?
It did great.
Fine, that's just
great. It did everything I said, believe it or not. Unlike you who do what you want, the picture did exactly what I said. It was unbelievable.
You know, I don't even have any words to say about that because maybe you could just make the words and put my picture back up.
That would work. I could do that.
Anyway, people, I'll get back to me. People, I'm very sorry about this. It's just, it's very sad the way Janet has to behave when I'm not here, and even when I am here.
Well, that's, because I have nobody to handle, so I have to work with the picture. Yeah. It's very sad for me.
I have no one to carve the word sex on my beard every morning.
That was our regular handler's job.
Yeah, but he wasn't with me.
No? It's a shame.
Anyway, I'm back from Japan. Hopefully, you watched the videos on the website. And it was quite fascinating, especially the tomb of Christ. Now they call it a tomb of Christ, it really isn't. What it is are two graves. One is supposed to be Jesus and the other one is his brother, whom the Japanese called Isukuri, or something like that. Which is, no, Isuki, whatever I said. And anyway, it was meant Isaac, which, of course, Jesus didn't have a brother named Isaac, but that really brings up the whole idea that it was not Jesus himself, but the grandson and perhaps the other maybe they were two brothers
or cousins,
or
we don't know,
who came there, and then they didn't excavate the graves, but they did samples of the soil underneath. There was no body, whatever was there had disintegrated, but what they did find was evidence of the herb verbena, which is something that's used, especially in the Middle East, for sanctifying the dead bodies when they're buried. So there was remnants of that in the grave. And I believe they even took some of that and planted it nearby, and it grew. There's a verbena growing nearby.
And what's interesting, too, is somebody sent me the link that I would like to look up, called The Hebrew Origins of the Japanese People, which sound like a very fascinating book. And when we compare Hebrew to the Japanese language...
Yeah, because I can read Hebrew and I looked at the Japanese letters, sometimes, walking down the street and looking at the store signs it looks just like Hebrew letters. It's very fascinating. But what's even more interesting is not far from the graves, there is a gigantic, not a gigantic, but a big pyramid, or the remains of a pyramid, on top of a mountain. And there's parts of it that are exposed from the inside, and you can see a pathway that goes down into the earth and then makes a right angle turn, but we could not fit in there because it was too narrow.
You ate too much Japanese food.
Well, that doesn't make you fat. In fact, the Japanese food was quite amazing. And but there are 7 pyramids in Japan, which I never knew before, and apparently they even claim that those pyramids are 50,000 to 60,000 years old. So that would put it in alignment, or maybe even older than the pyramids in Bosnia. What I also found interesting was that there was a plaque at the tombs from the Israeli ambassador to Japan, and a plaque from the city of Jerusalem saying that this little town was a sister city to Jerusalem. So listen, the Israelis wouldn't do this unless there was something going on over there. And also, whether coincidental or not, the Israeli Prime Minister was in Japan at the same time that I was. Apparently he was invited by the Japanese government to discuss some things.
Japanese government things.
So I don't know. And of course, while we were there, it was an earthquake. Actually, two earthquakes. I had one earthquake when I was at the town of Amore in the north of Japan. That was just a little one. But then when in my hotel in Tokyo, that was a big one, a big bang against the window. I thought something hit the window. And I looked towards the window, and then the whole building started to go back and forth.
That was when I was here and I had your picture and I was going
Yeah.
back and forth for the podcast.
Yeah, so it was a voodoo picture that you made.
That's what
and you
happened.
put
Put
pins
the
in
little
it.
pins in there and it made everything shake.
So, and the other important thing is while I was there, I visited the home of the family who claims to be descendant of Christ, and they had artifacts, which I think you saw in the videos, if you didn't go back and watch, and the artifacts are quite fascinating, and I describe what I think about them on the video, so you can go and watch them there. Moving on to other Asian news, and by the way, I will be delineating the whole Christ thing in Japan as time goes on, as I formulate all the information, put the pieces together, and I'll bring that to you over the next couple of weeks and months.
Well, let's also remind people that some of the more sensitive topics we do discuss in our seminars only in person and also with our Oversoul Mastermind group. So just so you know, as the general public, we save the really sensitive topics for membership and for our Oversoul Mastermind group and at our seminars and personal events.
Now, other East Asian news, apparently there's a major conflict between China and Vietnam because China put an oil rig in the South China Sea off the coast of Vietnam in an area that's claimed as the coastal waters of Vietnam. And things have become so violent for the Chinese in the Vietnamese area that the Chinese have evacuated 3,000 Chinese from Vietnam. This actually is not a good thing for the Vietnamese because China gives a lot of money to Vietnam. They support them in many ways, and China is now withdrawing a lot of its support in many ways. And so the economy of Vietnam may suffer from this. But it seems to me that this whole thing was orchestrated because it doesn't make sense that the Chinese would be fighting with the Vietnamese over this area, just like with the Taiwanese, the Japanese, the Filipinos, all fighting over this little rocks in the middle of the South China Sea. Something else is going on there. I think it's a diversion from other global events so that when certain things happen, global staged events, then all these things will be dropped.
And I want to interject here something too, is I meant to report on this last week and I forgot, and this week for some reason I got overlooked, but the Chinese reported that the Chinese are in the process of creating a high-speed train from China to the U.S.
To the U.S.?
Yes,
Talking about going under. They're going to hold their nose when they get to the Pacific
Talking about
Ocean.
going under the water to the continental U.S.
No, that doesn't make it's not possible.
It's been on the news.
Under the Pacific Ocean.
That's why I wished I would have remembered that article. That's why I wanted to bring that forward.
That doesn't make sense whatsoever.
That's what they're saying, that they're working on. So we have to do a little bit more research on that one. So, but I want to throw that one out there because again, the very
Are you positive about it?
Pretty positive, like 80% positive. But I have to look that one up to go back. Yeah, I didn't think you would while you were gone. It was only on a couple different places, but I believe I even read it on Huffington Post.
Let me tell you, flying across the Pacific Ocean is bad enough, let alone being on a train.
Yeah.
So, by the way, don't ever take Philippine Airlines.
Bad news.
Very, it's like
Bad
they just
news.
they should not have an airline. Okay, because 14 hours, no entertainment system, old 747, and then when we left Manila to go back to San Francisco, they decided that there was a leak on the left wing, and that took them 3 hours to figure out that it was nothing. But of course, I can't believe it was nothing. So it was a very tense trip across the ocean there, being very late. And then when the plane came in for landing in San Francisco, they announced that there was another mechanical problem, and they were informing the airport about it. So only Lord knows. Thank God they didn't say before, during the middle of the ocean.
Well, thank God you used your ultimate protection.
I thought maybe we'd be
Oversoul
like another
techniques.
Malaysia airline, vanish in the ocean and never find us.
Well, we don't know that they vanished in the ocean, but if they'd gone into a time warp, then you would have had more to report to us.
No, because I wouldn't be here. You'd have to talk to the picture.
It would channel through the picture. We would connect to you.
Well, what would you think if the lips started moving on that picture and the
I'd
eyes
say,
started moving?
wow, I am really good at what I do.
No, I would be because I'd be the one manipulating it. Okay, back to me. Just as another reminder, I know you're going to have a story about this, but I just
How do you know?
wanted to say, because I
Did
looked
you
for you.
pay
I looked
my
for yes, I
notes?
did, because you have really disgusting stories to tell, and
How do you
I'm
know
ashamed
that?
and embarrassed.
How do you know that?
Anyway,
You're not supposed to be
especially
keeping
to my new Japanese audience, but luckily they don't understand English. But there's a new crusades going on, as I've talked about many times before, but this time is with that Boko Haram in Nigeria, where they kidnapped those almost 300 Christian girls. I know you spoke about it on the podcast. And so now all of the international community is going to, I think this morning I read, attack or go after this Boko Haram, which they said is actually an arm of Al Qaeda.
Well, they're tying everything into
Yeah,
the Muslim people.
And then the other thing, that's on the Western Africa. Then Eastern Africa, of course, the big story is this Sudanese woman, pregnant woman, who married a Christian man, and now they want to execute her for doing that.
After she gives birth to her baby, though.
Oh, after?
Yes, because
Oh.
the baby, they want to raise the baby. So she actually has her 18-month-old son with her in jail because he cannot be placed with the father because he's a Christian. And the baby, they want to have her give birth to the baby and nurse him. And then
kill her.
And then they will kill her.
Brilliant. You know, and this really makes Islam look like a very nice religion.
Well, that's the point of it all, obviously, is they're doing everything they can to make the Muslims look very bad.
And then my question is, how much money are we giving as an aid and support to Sudan?
Well,
countries that do, or to Nigeria, or to all these countries that do these ridiculous things, and we give them money.
it was interesting. Now, you missed this part of the podcast last week when I was talking about the Nigerian Good Luck Jonathan, who's the actual name
I love
of
that
is
name.
the president of
I love
Nigeria. His wife, Patience Jonathan, she came forward and said that really were there ever even any girls kidnapped?
She said?
She said that she didn't believe it, and she felt the dissenters were trying to make her husband look bad and bring him down, and it was all set up and staged.
Oh, she's going to disappear pretty soon.
That story has now disappeared. And before you go on, I'm just going to tell what I wrote, what I have to add to that, so we don't have to go back to
Are
it.
you interjecting during my time?
I am interjecting during your time.
Where's my agent?
Your agent
This is,
is locked in a picture. Okay, let me
Where's my
see.
handbook?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say now that the Britain and the U.S. are moving in and that the Nigerian government is welcoming them. So to me, it's another way. It's exercise trainings for all the troops. We've talked about this.
It's a way to remove Islam from North Africa.
And
That's what it's about.
to start to colonize Africa with the West in control. And we talked about when Prince William had his 21st birthday and the Queen dressed up and there was all that ritual stuff. I don't want people to forget that because in my opinion, it looked to me like they were giving Africa to Prince William.
Well, the Queen was the Queen of Africa, wasn't she?
She was. She dressed up as the Queen and that was like a big deal for his 21st birthday. So they don't do anything like that without a meaning behind it. No. So to me, this is part of their infiltration because this kind of thing happens in Africa all the time. And I said not to put it down, but the women that they kidnapped and they kill and all this, it happens all the time in all the villages in Africa. So.
Now, this is some scary news. Now, talk about funny names. There is a dangerous and active volcano 6,000 feet below the surface of the Caribbean Sea off the coast of Grenada and near St. Lucia. But you know what the name of the volcano is? It's hilarious.
It's not Good Luck Jonathan.
No, Kickham Jenny. Must be Good Luck Jonathan's cousin. Kickham Jenny. Only in the Caribbean could you have a name like that. Anyway, they said this has the potential to trigger gigantic tsunamis that could be felt as far away as the northeastern United States. And according to USGS, Kickham Jenny volcano has erupted 10 times since 1939. The most recent one is in 1990. And in addition to Kickham Jenny in the Caribbean, apparently University of Tasmania in Australia has evidence of the largest subsea volcano in recorded history off the coast of New Zealand. It's called the Hove volcano.
That's not as good a name as the Kickham Jenny.
No, I like Kickham Jenny better. And it was discovered in 2002, so it's pretty recent. And they said that the plumbing, the magma field, is deep within the Earth's crust. And it will affect the Kermadec Islands north, and the Caldera volcanoes there north of New Zealand, and that apparently pumice from these eruptions are washing up on the eastern shores of Australia since 2013 and slowly making its way down the coastline. Did you know that there are about 1,900 active volcanoes on the Earth?
I know there are a lot.
And they're also saying that there's evidence that magma is accumulating beneath Yellowstone and Mount St. Helens, your favorite place that destroyed your farm years ago. Now also, the last supervolcano that erupted in New Zealand was 1,200 years ago in Lake Taupo. And also Indonesia's Lake Toba, well, that erupted 73,000 years ago. So all of these are now potentially dangerous again. And when they blow, it's not going to be pretty for anybody. But here's a conspiracy thing. Apparently, underneath Yellowstone National Park, the caldera is nearing a cataclysmic eruption, according to a couple of sites, and the government is being silent about it, but they are slowly evacuating towns nearby.
You know, while you were gone, I reported on the government reporting on earthquake dangers in Oklahoma. And they said they have never before issued warnings for that area. So the government is silently, quietly making these warnings to people. So they are telling people what's going on.
But the last time there was a cataclysmic eruption of Yellowstone was 640,000 years ago. And it killed animals as far away as Nebraska. Seismologists are saying that after that big earthquake they had there March 30th, it doesn't show signs of erupting anytime soon. But they also said that last year they discovered that the Yellowstone volcano had magma 2.5 times more or larger than they ever anticipated previously.
They change it all the time.
And then finally, a story about global warming, ClimateGate as they're calling it. Apparently there is a researcher and a very respected climatologist in England by the name of Leonard Bankston, who is a climatologist at the University of Reading in Britain, who in February wrote a report saying that there really was no global warming. His report was rejected because the reviewers found it, in quotes, harmful to the climate change agenda, and they muzzled him. He says that the greenhouse gas emissions are less harmful and cause less warming than people have been told. So they've threatened him, bullied him, pulled all his papers, and they're going through a smear campaign against him. But Bankston told the Times of London last week, and I quote, "It is an indication of how science is gradually being influenced by political views. The reality hasn't been keeping up with computer models." So, that's very British to say it in such a nice way. If it was in the United States, they'd say something else.
Yeah.
But basically, he's saying everything's manipulated.
Yeah. All right. And that, of course, we already know.
Yep. And so now for your disgusting, horrible, sexual poop stories. Go ahead.
Well, the first disgusting, horrible sexual poop story is about NASA.
Well, that's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Did you know, and this was actually reported on just before you got home, so I don't know if you saw this or not, that NASA craft recently caught sight of what looks like a square hole in the sun.
No, the sun has a hole in it.
A square hole.
A square hole.
And they have a picture of it. You'll have to look that up. I've got the link posted.
And what they say it is, what's
They
the cover
didn't say.
story?
There is no cover story. They just said, look at this, and then again the story disappeared.
But what that proves?
What does that prove?
That the sun, like I said, is an aperture or an opening from another universe. And so that square hole is probably an artificial opening from one dimension into this dimension.
And I think that this is a way they're letting people know. And in fact, in Canada, there was a police officer who supposedly caught this huge meteorite coming through the sky. And of course, this again is opening up the frequency for people to be aware.
It was in Canada.
This was in Canada.
I know what he said when he saw it. He
What?
said, A? I'm sure that's what he said.
I'm sure that's what he said.
What's that, A?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that was out there for a while. So with that said, now I'm going to warn people because it is true. I do have some really horrible, disgusting
I
stories.
know you do.
And of course, they came out just before your arrival so that you could discuss it in person versus me having to project through the picture. It's much easier for me.
I prefer to have my picture instead of listening.
So for
to this.
anybody out there who's easily offended, I suggest right now you close your doors and you open your eyes, because most people are easily offended. You want to hear this stuff. It's just you don't want your children to hear it. Or if you're at work, make sure your colleagues aren't around. So
just go on.
So I'm going to start with the kind of some milder stories first to break you in. Okay, the FBI has a video out warning college students to be careful of foreign spy agencies when they travel abroad, because these foreign spy agencies are trying to recruit college students to be double agents. So there's
like that had never happened
but
before.
They're now telling people about that. It's specifically Chinese intelligence officers, they're saying. So I thought that was interesting. And they said that the agency, the FBI, actually spends between $500,000 and $800,000 each year warning people about these things that can happen to them. And so, of course, they talk about one man who actually was a college student who was paid $70,000.
By who?
They said it to be a double agent between the two State Departments and the Chinese department.
Oh, so you got paid by both. That's brilliant.
Yeah, but anyway, he did wind up going to prison for that. But the point being is, they're telling people now that this is going on. Now here's another interesting story. There is now a program in Amsterdam which pays alcoholics in beer.
Well, that's Holland. They do everything there.
They do very odd things in Holland according to our standards of living.
There are strange people there.
According to this, the alcoholics are given 5 cans of beer a day, rolling tobacco, a hot lunch, and the equivalent of $13 in euros.
Maybe I should move there.
Maybe. And then it said, because normally they sit around doing nothing, so this way they can clean the streets, and in return for the work, this is what they're giving them.
Perfect.
So anyway,
I like that program.
It says because the program's going so well,
of course,
that other cities in the Netherlands are looking into the program.
Yeah, Holland will become really powerful in the future because of that.
Apparently. But the project leader says the alcoholics don't get enough beer to make them drunk, but I guess with the other $13 they could...
5 beers?
5 beers.
A day?
That
make me drunk.
But plus with the other $13 they get, they could still buy more beer and make themselves more drunk.
Plus, pot is legal in Holland,
a lot of
prostitution. You could have a lot of fun there, really.
Apparently.
I mean, otherwise it's a pretty boring place, so no wonder that.
They do something, and then this is how they make the news.
I mean, the windmills aren't working anymore.
I guess not, or not in the correct direction. No. Now, speaking of pot, with the legalization of marijuana, we have a lot of new things happening, and one of them, believe it or not, this woman's name, I think this is a pseudonym, Jane West.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like a pseudonym. She's in Colorado. She's now becoming a pot party planner.
Ooh.
So if you want, it's called a Bring Your Own Cannabis Party, BYOC, and she will tell you how to have like a really great, I guess, and the etiquette and all that for your own cannabis party.
Maybe Expansion should do that.
Well, anyway, I think she calls it edible events. And speaking of edible events, there was a story that followed that called edible limits, and apparently, because you know how one thing spawns something else. Well, so now Colorado's, it says best and brightest, have gathered to discuss what might be the single most delicious threat to our nation's health. I think it's still silly. Eating too many pot brownies.
That's Colorado's best and brightest.
Yes, best and brightest. This is what they're spending their time on.
Like the air isn't thin enough, that their brains aren't working, so now they need pot on top of that.
And so their best and brightest are going to talk about pot brownies.
Right.
So now they have to decide about consumers who are unaware of high levels of pot concentration. I reported, remember, on all the stores and the snacks. I reported on the children getting into them and winding up in the hospital. Well, apparently the same thing is happening to adults because they don't understand how much they're eating and then the effects.
That's because they're really intelligent people there.
Apparently. Well, and this is going to obviously help, increase intelligence while it's destroying their brain cells.
Maybe they should move to Holland.
Maybe that would be a good place for them. Anyway, they have something, for example, chips and marijuana ahoy, which is not an actual product, but this is the kind of thing they're talking about. So they need to make them aware of concentration because, for example, it says one Wyoming student jumped to his death last month after eating 6 times the recommended dose of pot cookies.
There's a recommended dose of pot cookies?
Apparently 10 milligrams per serving. So now on the
Is
snacks,
that the FDA?
well, I don't know who
Is
said
that-
this.
yeah.
Maybe it's the Best and Brightest of Colorado who is doing this.
That's pretty scary for Colorado.
The task force is recommending a system like green for mildly potent and black for, as they said, black diamonds for brownies that, quote, make you see God.
Uh-huh.
And this is for stuff that's supposedly not dangerous, remember?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's not forget your homeland is also legal there.
yeah, but that's why I don't live there anymore. I don't want to be involved with that kind of stuff. So anyway, now they're trying to train the employees who sell these things about the warning labels. I mean, it's just
The 12-year-old employees who have also the IQ
brain
of
dead,
a pencil.
who are doing this in their free time and probably on the job.
That's brilliant. I could predict also many great things coming out of Colorado in the
Yeah,
future.
obviously. So anyway, it's all ridiculous, but I want you to be aware of what's happening.
Yeah, it actually makes the Valley girls
Look
brilliant.
good.
Yeah.
I agree. Maybe
Yeah.
we jumped to the conclusion.
I'm sure.
I'm sure. And speaking of which, this I'm just going to throw out there because this is one thing I've noticed here recently.
Uh-oh, I could see the title on that
Well,
one.
I'm not going to talk about that one yet.
No?
This is a surprise for you because I got to keep you
Yeah,
off guard.
it's a
Otherwise, I'm
surprise.
bringing back the
Just
picture.
keep going.
Okay, the new word that I have seen in all kinds of writing, formal writing, what I would call formal writing, newscast writing, is the word S-H-I-T.
So that's a new word?
That's being used just like we used to say excrement or feces or
Poop.
waste or poop. Now this is the new word that they're saying everywhere and everything I'm reading.
I haven't heard that.
Well, you don't go the same places I read.
Well, I'd like to know where you go.
Well, this isn't just like I said, your standard stories. I'm beginning to see this more and more. So watch this because even the Radia talked about the degradation of the frequency behind the words, and when you use these kind of words, it lowers the frequency and degrades yourself and humanity. Now, this one I'm not going to talk about in detail. Quit reading my
Good.
stories. But this one's called The Real Reason You're Circumcised Is Not What You Think. Now, I want you to remember what I told you because we've been through, I've got to repeat this, all the words for all the female genitalia from top to bottom. And I told you the next step, as I told you this last year, was going to be the same thing for the males. And this is exactly what we're seeing now, exactly what I told you, even so far as to go through the circumcision thing. And they're talking, this video, which I'll post the link, you can watch that. But anyway, that's interesting. And they're talking about it in the Jewish religion, they're talking about circumcision and but they're talking about how the Orthodox, are pedophiles because of their specific practices. All kinds of things now about what are happening to the men's genitalia. So exactly what I told you would happen. And those of you who might have seen this, Miley Cyrus, which I talked to you about how she's imprinting everybody at this time, how she added a male blow-up doll on the stage and simulated having sex with that.
Because she must live in Colorado.
And also a giant male penis, which she rode. Blow-up balloon. So all this is...
Her father is so proud of her.
Well, apparently he is, from what the little interviews I see. But again, it's imprinting people, and then this is the next thing, which I'm going to tell you about, that there's an all-female band that sings songs while orgasming. They don't show it, but apparently there are people using vibrators on them out of view while they do their singing. The reason I'm bringing this up to you is because I tell you this is going to happen. I told you the topless stuff for women while you were gone. I talked about the topless women reading club in New York City.
Reading club?
Reading club, where they read in New York City with their tops off.
Because?
Because, period. Because they can.
Or maybe have some placeholder in the book.
It's possible. Keep the books open.
Yeah.
But anyway, I predict that they're going to have just orgies, sexual orgies. Now it's not going to be after the concert. It's going to be during the concert. That's the next thing that's going to happen.
The concert be in Colorado or Holland.
It could be all over at the rate we're going. But the point is I'm telling you that don't go down this path because it's about the degradation of sexuality. If you want to know the truth, read our book, True Reality of Sexuality, because that book is going to talk to you about how to use it correctly and not to tie you into the astral level and how the Illuminati uses it for sexual manifestation and all that. It is disgusting. But I'm letting you know this because this is how they entrap people. And people are falling for it. So with that said, I also wanted to tell you now, again, going back to the New World Religion, there was a man arrested in Pakistan for eating a 2-day-old baby.
Yeah, I saw that. I heard that.
And he was arrested 2 years ago for eating the leg of a woman who died of cancer. So you remember how they break open the frequency, and these are a lot of things we talked about in our frequency seminar that we had in April, how they have to cut into it some way. So first of all, you go, ooh, yuck, but they get your attention. And once they get your attention, it opens it up.
Oh, that's why we don't go to Pakistani
We
restaurants.
do not go to Pakistani restaurants or a lot of these other things, but I want you to be aware of what's going on out there because
Gives you a whole new meaning to bite me.
it's terrible. It's true. It's absolutely true. And now this is also of interest to me because now they're talking about brain zaps to help you control your dreams. Because if you don't have nightmares and those kind of things, then apparently you can get your brain zapped and stop the dreams, according to scientists.
Yeah.
Now again, this is in Nature Neuroscience shows that scientists are participating with individuals in this study to give them lucid dreams by giving their brains a light electric shock so they can control what's happening. Now, in my opinion, this is a precursor to people, again, living in a dream world. And it reminds me of that series, the Pendragon series. For those of you who haven't read it, it's very good. It's actually a tween type of a series. 10 books, and they talk about living in different worlds. And in one world, these people live in beds, and all they're tied to these electronic monitors. And that's all they do is have these lucid type dreams where they actually think they're there. So anyway, this is what your scientists are doing. Now this one, again, no shock, but I want to report this because this is about weight loss surgery. Now when weight loss surgery first happened, it was experimental, people had to pay for it on their own. There was a lot of issues surrounding that. But from people who did it, they would say like extreme reasons. Now it's becoming, of course, acceptable. And now finally we're down to saying that this might help prevent heart rhythm disorder or atrial fibrillation. So of course now if we can have a medical justification for that, it's an opportunity to do more surgery on people. And of course we all know that weight is an issue here in the US, but of course a lot of it has to do with the foods that we have. So if you eat a certain way, your weight's going to do a certain thing, your body's not going to work the way you want it to do, and then you're going to walk into a hospital and you're going to present yourself for basically experimental surgery, and it's very rough. You really need to do our work, and that will help you correct the mind pattern, so therefore it will correct a lot of your health issues. Not that we take away from certain things, but you have to have a balance of all things. All right? And I have just a couple more here for you. We have a woman whose name is Biggles. Last name Biggles. Yes, Debbie Biggles. Apparently she woke up after being declared clinically dead for 26 minutes. Now again, and the doctors were calling this a miracle. This again opens that resurrection frequency and a miracle. So again, believe it or not, leading us into New World religion. She suffered a heart attack at work, they performed CPR, then they declared her clinically dead, which meant that a clinical death just meant her heart stopped beating, but the breathing and the blood circulation, I guess, stopped as well. But the person isn't quite biologically dead until the brain cells die from lack of oxygen. So that's clinical death. So they expected that, and if she woke up, she would be in a vegetative state the rest of her life. Well, she woke up and she's perfectly fine, so it's a miracle. And this...
Of course, if she was in Colorado, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
That's right. It's absolutely correct at this point. Well, anyway, on the heels of this story, there was another story that actually came out in 2010 about a lady who had twins. One twin was declared dead, and the woman felt very, obviously upset about that. So they gave her the twin, and so she held it on her bare skin, and she talked to it. She wanted to say goodbye. So she talked to it and held it there as after they had told her it was dead, and the baby moved. So she told the doctor, and the doctor said that was like a death thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, she kept talking to it, and it kept moving, and they kept telling her, that it was just the baby, as it was basically departing from the body. Well, then it gasped for air. So she still couldn't get the doctor to come to her room, so she told the doctor that the baby was now dead, they could come and get it. And that's how she got the doctor to come to her room, and the baby was alive. And the baby now, that happened in 2010, 2014, the baby is now alive and well, with nothing wrong, which makes me wonder if perhaps they hadn't given it some kind of a drug to make it seem like it was dead, and maybe they were going to then take it for experimentation.
Oh, you never know.
You don't know these days.
Where was that?
I don't have that link with me right now. But anyway, this was a few years ago that it happened. But it was interesting that she could not get the doctor to come to verify the baby was okay until she told the doctor that the baby was dead. So keep these things in mind, because if these things happen to you or your loved ones, regardless of the imprinting, it's like don't give up on them until you know you're supposed to give up. So remember that. And the last story is not too exciting, but I want to bring this forward because, again, this is something we talked about in True Reality of Sexuality, which we did discuss the third gender, and of course we have the chart in there, which basically has about 8 genders, which we found out through after the book was published, that a lot of indigenous cultures believe in those things. So here we have in India a woman who's exploring India's, and I don't know how to say this word.
I don't either.
Hijras?
I don't know.
They call it a third gender within the Indian culture, where the people do not identify as male nor female, and they can dress as either. So again, but this is being put forward to you. So
well, it's just hermaphrodite.
No, not necessarily. So whether they might identify one way or the other. So could or could not be a hermaphrodite. But my point being is, now they're going to take us into, male and female and a third gender. There may be more. And so read True Reality of Sexuality. Continue to watch our posts on the site because we do address this. And the indigenous cultures respected all these different varieties of sexuality. And we know within the God mind that God mind allows all things. And you don't want to be put into a box. You don't want to call yourself a third gender, and maybe there really are 8, so you put yourself in another box. And this is what I tell you people. You might think you're out of the box, but you might just be in another box. So that's another reason for you to participate in what we do here at expansions.com. Speaking of which, that's in my stories, and thank you for bearing with me through those. Very painful.
I tried not to pay attention.
I know. But we do want to remind you that we have a couple of very exciting things coming up. We've actually added into our Day with Stewart during the summertime something very exciting.
Ooh, what is it?
It is that you will be teaching them special meditative techniques about salt water.
In salt water.
In salt water. Sea serpent frequency, dolphin frequency. Any other kind of frequency? Or are we saving that first?
We'll save that.
Okay. So these are special frequencies you can learn. You have, 4 days, I believe, open, which we're going to make special for these in July and August only here in Michigan.
Hopefully it'll warm up by then.
Hopefully it'll warm up, but if not, sea serpents and dolphins, they go in all different kinds of water.
Yeah, but Stewart doesn't.
Well, you can put your feet in there anyway. Get them a little wet. So just a couple of these kind of special days. So keep this in mind. You want to contact Patricia ASAP. If you've been thinking about it, this is a very narrow window of opportunity that might be exactly what you've been looking for. So take advantage of that. In August, communication. Now, you see how well Stewart and I communicate.
Yeah.
Very well. So we want to teach you how to do it equally as well, or better maybe, as well as oversoul communication, inner and outer, with your colleagues, with your neighbors. I'm going to be teaching toning, which we have not done in a long time, as well as color and archetype. So that's going to be a really stellar event in August. Very special as well. All our events are very special. And then we have in October, everything oversoul for our annual October event.
But you forgot something.
Which one?
June.
Oh, June. It's right around the corner. Yeah, you're about ready to go out the door for that. We have Stewart going to New York City combining his events with Naina Nakagawa.
Say that 10 times fast.
But she's a very complicated, beautiful lady, so I would not want to do anything to disrupt her frequency.
No.
She really is a lovely person, and she's very kind and very generous. And so you want to be sure and attend her. She has a holistic bazaar. And she has, following that, we have personal consultations. You'll be doing a 3-hour hyperspace basics intro there at the Meta Center in New York, and they've also been very kind to us there as well. And consultations will be there.
Hopefully they fix the elevator.
Maybe, but it was fun. Who's been in a freight elevator for a while?
Yeah,
we had an
back in
operator.
the 1850s.
Yeah, but we had an operator to take us up and down, and the guy was really nice to us.
I'd rather go on Philippine Airlines.
No, the guys were nice. But anyway, it is a beautiful place, it's a beautiful building, but they were redoing it, so they were sending us on the freight elevator until their regular elevator was fixed, so it was an adventure. So anyway, that's happening right around the corner. A few spaces left for personal consultations, Patricia tells me. The seminar itself is filling up extremely quickly. So standing room only. Last time we were there, you want to be sure to get on the list. Contact Patricia.
It was standing room, actually.
That's what I said. I think it held about 80. I think we had over about 100, 120, somewhere like that. So you want to be sure and get there, early. So watch for that. Go to our homepage, sign up for our mailing list. If you're not on it already, that will put you on that mailing list as well.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of. I'm still tired from
I know. Well, actually,
adventure.
you should be getting ready for bed now.
No, it'd be way past that time.
No, because you stayed up way past that time.
Not that
you
late.
were late. You had very long days while you were there. But it's contributed to you being so pleasant now that you're home and having this generally smiley and lovely face that I'm so used to seeing every day here around the house. It's such a joy and pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I have to say. How about you? You have anything else?
I have to say that's it for today, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.